We are back on the track, putting it on wax, everybody. Right Path to Retirement, the podcast hosted by Jimmy Lynn, the president, founder, and financial advisor of Right Path Wealth Management. I'm your co-host, Doug Turnbull, and Jimmy and the team, they want you to find them especially on rightpathwm.com. Get that complimentary consultation. And Jimmy, I know you are like the central figure, hands-on involved in all that, so I think you end up talking to, if not all, just about every person that calls in. How you doing there today?
We're staying busy here. I mean, the new year's gotten off to a really, really fast start. We had a couple seminars last week. Had some first meetings with people, started talking about the retirement situation. And people are pretty excited right now. You generally see that at the beginning of a year. Everyone's got their resolutions. So far, so good for the new year.
And I need to mention, by the way, Jimmy and the crew, you can reach them 702-805-7000 outside of Las Vegas, Nevada. 2 different offices, too. I say Nevada, but it is Nevada, right?
It is. So people will know that you're not from here. Yeah, exactly. But that's okay. That's okay.
I just always grew up saying that. And then I think talking to you, I was like, no, really, Nevada. So I need to put that different A in there. Now, let's talk about the A. I mean, I've got my Braves hat on right here, my knit hat today, because it is cold as bananas here in the South. But you were here in the South right before our last winter weather scare about 2 weeks ago before we were recording. And the marketing company I work for, Impact Partnership, does a kickoff for its upper echelon advisors here, of which you're one. And you got to come here and, of course, get wine to dine like anybody else, but get to see some inspirational speakers too. And we got to hang out, which was a lot of fun. So tell us a little bit about your trip here.
It was a great event. I was really looking forward to it, mainly just to meet a lot of the support staff that we lean on every single day.
Yeah.
And specifically you, Doug, it was a pleasure to kind of be able to spend some time with you and the rest of the team. But it was great just to, because we're, as advisors, we're so knee deep into like working with our clients and trying to help them achieve their goals. And it's just a great reset for the year. And being able to just hear what other people are doing for their clients and be able to, create plans that really help at the end of the day our end users, which are our clients, but also the inspirational speakers that were there. Coach K, that was just amazing to see him there. And he's just such a funny guy that it's part of his personality that you don't really see when he's on TV. But just being around these advisors and listening to these speakers who tell us their life story and how did they get to the point they were, I was really inspired. And that inspiration really does trickle down because I know it affects everyone on the impact side, but also I think we bring that energy back to the staff at our local offices.
Yeah.
And we hope that all permeates and eventually, the net result of that is we serve our clients better.
Well, for sure. Yeah. Change starts at the top, but you got to work with all layers of the organization to make sure it permeates through there. And you saw Coach K, business leader John Maxwell, and also Brent and Kyle Pease. And Kyle's a quadriplegic, and Brent and Kyle actually do marathons and triathlons and Ironman even together. So seeing them pull that off, which was your opening night speech, it's like, yeah, top that. That's something good to bring back. And you made it out of Atlanta to Vegas before the airport shut down here in Atlanta, so you didn't get held up too much, which is good.
It wasn't bad. I think we made it by an hour or so before everything was going to get shut down. So someone was looking out for us. But I enjoyed my time out there. Really enjoyed meeting the crew. I'm looking forward to going back.
Yeah, well, great seeing you too. Now, the first order of business today, well, I should mention that the last time out, we need you to go back and listen to past episodes on Apple, Spotify, iHeart, or even on that media tab on rightpathwm.com. But the last time out, we talked about the last 2 episodes, I should say, 2 episodes ago, we talked about the magic number, 59 and a half years old. And then we also talked about turning 65 and the implications with healthcare and Medicare. So we talked about magic numbers on those. Now we need to talk about someone who had a big year last year, and that's JP Morgan. JP Morgan and their CEO, Jamie Dimon, he's been out in media kind of prognosticating and talking about the impact of the Trump administration on the economy and just other aspects of the economy, if you will. And he had an article, or there was an article that quoted him on Investopedia.com, Jimmy, that sort of gave what he considered 2 significant risks in the economy coming up. And I'm sure we'd like to talk to you about how to brace for those. It mentioned those risks were just simply inflation. There's a lot of big talk whenever there's any new president, right? Of, we're going to do this and spend money on that and, give you taxes back here, whatever. But then there's also the geopolitical instability, particularly in the Middle East, that people have an eye on. So can you dig into that a little bit and how you help your clients brace for these?
Absolutely. And reviewing what Jamie said, a lot of it makes sense. And so inflation is something that, obviously has been a problem for us since the COVID era. And it's come down significantly. I think it may have peaked somewhere at like 9%, which is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
The goal of the government is really try to get inflation down to about 2%. But there's a lot of different factors that are coming into play that are slowing us down a little bit. In fact, I think in December, because I actually mentioned this in my last seminar, in December, inflation was at 2.7%. And I saw numbers released this January that said it's back up to 2.9. So it's kind of going in the wrong direction. But yeah, there's a lot of different factors that we're going to look at, especially with the Trump administration coming in. The two things that I'm looking at personally is tariffs, right? So they're looking at taxation on things being imported into our country, specifically with China, where they're saying, possibly doing a 60% tariff on things coming in. And the concern I have is that we know that everything or a great majority of what we buy comes from China. And when there's taxation on anything that comes in, it's not something that the corporations are going to eat. Obviously, that oftentimes is going to be passed on to the end consumer, which is going to be you and I. So that's a big concern. I think a lot of times that's kind of a starting negotiating point. So Trump, being the master negotiator, starts at one point, and we ideally are going to meet somewhere in the middle where there could be an increase in taxation, but hopefully not to the point where there's huge inflation. So that's the first thing I'm looking at. The other thing I'm looking at is really the employment, because there is obviously border security is something that was a main focus of the election. And the concern I have, again, is that we have to be honest with each other, that a lot of the service workers that we see out there, or a lot of the produce that we're getting from the grocery stores, or just things being manufactured, oftentimes that's being done. And if we have mass deportation, sometimes that's going to affect employment.
Right.
And so that's my concern, is that everybody wants one policy in place, but then when it hits your pocketbook and you're going to the grocery store and things cost more, you're going to a restaurant and things cost more, that's where people start to have some hesitation. And so I'm not here to say what's right or wrong.
Yeah.
But those are just things to be aware of that we're kind of looking at.
Well, for sure. And look, let's face it, for a long time in the U.S., people from immigrant communities, if I can speak, immigrant communities, have done jobs that maybe people that are native here haven't tried to do. And so that means the cost of it stays a little bit lower. If suddenly those open up and you have to hire people, or you don't have anybody to do them, so it creates a supply problem, or you have to hire someone that costs more money, both of those things can drive up the cost there.
All of those costs typically are going to trickle down. And look, there's got to be some type of middle ground and some type of solution, just like the tariffs that we're talking about, and just like immigration policy. It all starts with a kind of a negotiating point. You kind of start at the extremes, and somehow everybody meets in the middle, and you're able to solve a solution without having huge impacts on things like inflation. But I think one of the quotes that I got out of Jamie Dimon's article that I think kind of encapsulates what we do as advisors is his statement that he says, "We hope for the best, but prepare the firm for a wide range of scenarios."
Yes.
And as advisors, that's really what we do every single day. As people will see their retirement accounts, they'll see the stock market, S&P 500 continues to keep going to all-time highs. And people just think that this will go on forever. They can retire and they can just rely on their accounts growing at 10, 12% and just pull a little money out of there, as their retirement income. And what I tell people is that our job as advisors is to prepare them for every market condition, because nobody predicted COVID. Right? Nobody can predict if there's going to be a significant war in the Middle East, if the Russia and Ukraine political situation is going to get worse, if China decides to invade Taiwan. These are all different factors that we could do everything right in the world, in our country, controlling what we can control, and we can bring down inflation and the market. We can have all the business policies to make the markets go up. but then we can't control a global pandemic. We can't control another country invading another. And so we as advisors, our job is really to put our clients in a situation where they don't have to worry about those things. Because if something happens, they have buckets of money that are safe, that are not impacted by any of this volatility, and that they can draw from when the markets are down. And so that's what our goal as planners are.
Well, for sure. And if somebody is more advanced in retirement, right, or they're close to it, and they may be more risk averse, I mean, you have options for that. If it's somebody like my age, I'm only 39 years old, I'm going to see the market go up and down and sideways about a bunch of times probably by the time I retire. So we need to talk to somebody like you who's seen it happen again and again and with a bunch of different people to find the right blend.
Absolutely. Everyone's situation is different. And for you, Doug, if you're consistently investing in the market, sometimes these situations can be to your benefit, right? If you see the market collapsing because of some political situation, everything that you buy, you're buying at a discount. Now that script is flipped for a retiree who's not putting any new money in, because now they face things like the concept of sequence of return risk, which we've talked about before. But it's just a matter of when the market's down and you have to pull money from it, you're just not going to make that rebound the way someone like your age is going to be. So everyone's situation is different. And that's why we do these complimentary consultations, really just to dig into each prospect's specific situations, what keeps them up at night, what blind spots do they have that they may not be aware of, but we see all the time that could be a concern. And then how do we have a plan in place to fix that? So that's why we always encourage people to contact our office, reach out for a complimentary consultation. We'll just sit down, no obligation, but we'll really talk about your situation. So I encourage anyone that's listening, 702-805-7000, come on, meet with us, and we'll talk very high level about your situation. They can also go to our website, rightpathwm.com, and contact us there as well.
That's just a great way to put a pin right in that. And I love something you said. You said, we've seen this a bunch of times with a bunch of different people, right? You've seen it a bunch of times over and over again. When it happens to you, it's like the only time, and it's the end of the world, and your hair's on fire, right? But you've seen election cycles. You've seen people talk big and then deliver differently. You talked about that, the negotiation, right? So again, get with Jimmy and the team, rightpathwm.com, 702-805-7000. They also have a Facebook page as well, many different ways to get in touch there. And Jimmy, I think that's a great way to sum up what's something that's so complicated is it really takes another conversation, and it's still too soon to know if, oh my gosh, the sky is falling. If anything, it's just very uncertain and could break a lot of different ways.
Absolutely. I don't want anyone out there, any of the listeners, to panic. This is just the normal news cycle, but the way you really kind of separate yourself from the news cycle is to have a plan. And the starting point is to talk to someone in your life that can walk you through, like, not to be corny, but the right path, right? So the listeners, again, contact us at our office. We're happy to sit down with you. 702-805-7000, how you can reach us for a consultation.
Make those phones ring, everybody. And if you know somebody that needs to hear this, maybe you're hearing them yell at clouds, so to speak. They're yelling at the TV. They're upset, or they think they're going to lose all their money, something like that. Of course, there's no guarantee that any certain thing won't happen, but have them send them the link to this. And be sure to subscribe, turn on notifications. These episodes come out about every 2 weeks, and we thank our producer, Daniel Sallerson, for making that happen. By the way, Jimmy, we thank you for sitting down and shooting the bull with us a little bit. Hopefully we're talking about a bull versus a bear here over this next bit of time.
Perfect. Hopefully, Doug. Thanks for having us again.
Hey, thank you, Jimmy. He's Jimmy Lynn, president, founder, financial advisor, Right Path to Retirement. I'm your co-host, Doug Turnbull, and we'll have another episode of the Right Path to Retirement podcast coming your way here shortly.
Insurance products are offered through the insurance business Right Path Wealth Management. Right Path Wealth Management is also an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through Impact Partnership Wealth, LLC, IPW, a registered investment advisor. IPW does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by Right Path Wealth Management are not subject to investment advisor requirements. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities services of the issuing carrier. This podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Right Path Wealth Management is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained by sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Right Path Wealth Management.